Okay, we are live. I want to welcome all of you live listeners and viewers right now. I will be doing the standard traditional opening for Wargaming Recon. Just getting my mic a little set. I rearranged it the other day. I was going to do some other recording stuff in another room, and that just that didn't go as I planned. So let's just getting all set, and then okay, here we are going. So thank you for bearing with me as I get this ready. And without further ado, this episode of Wargaming Recon is about to start. Welcome to Wargaming Recon. I am your host, Jonathan J. Reinhardt. Wargaming Recon is the only member of the Troll in the Corner podcast network to discuss historical and New England gaming. This is episode 137. Great Facebook groups for wargamers, or as I've been calling it on the live stream and everywhere else, 5 great wargaming Facebook groups. They're basically the same thing, but don't worry, because no matter what I talk about in this episode, you don't have to remember anything except for one thing, people. That's right. Remember the link to the show notes. That's wargamingrecon.com/WR137. That's right. wargamingrecon.com/WR137, because this is episode 137. Can you believe it's been 137 episodes since I began doing this all those many, many, many years ago? So welcome new and longtime listeners alike. If you are watching on the live stream, and I know some of you might be, I'm hoping that you're going to notice that there's a better video feed, because I got this new webcam. It's a high def webcam, 1080p, but basically it's a Logitech one. It's really cool. Got a great deal, half price on Amazon. So it allows the video to be a little bit better. And if you're watching live, you see that I got all sorts of fluffy hair and everything. Conditioner was in a little too long today. But anyway, so today's episode, I'm going to be talking about some great Facebook groups that if you're a wargamer, and you must because you're listening to Wargaming Recon, that if you're a wargamer, you should belong to, or you should at least check out. Now, way, way, way back at the beginning of 2015, I thought, let me come up with a plan for all the different episodes, things that I want to cover, show ideas and that sort of stuff. So that way I can put information up on the episode guide in advance, or I can at least put it up on the live page. So that way you can see these live events are coming up. And what will Jonathan be talking about? What will I be talking about? You might want to know, say, this is going to be really interesting. I'll watch that, but I won't watch this or whatever. And I was coming up with all these ideas. And one of the listeners, one of you, came up with this idea. Listener Dave said, you should talk about the social media groups, the Facebook groups. And I love the idea. And I said, I'm going to put that in my pocket and we'll see how it goes. And originally I thought I would take that and talk about all sorts of different social media I don't know if groups is the right word, but groups is what I'll use. Twitter hashtags to follow, Pinterest boards, things on G+, groups and entities there, and Facebook groups. And I realized, I don't use all of those other things as much as I use Facebook. So I couldn't give as much into it. I like to do the research and try to present a knowledgeable take on things. So I'm not like, yeah, this Pinterest board I think is okay. Maybe if you do it. Meanwhile, I have no idea what I'm talking about. So I decided to take Dave's idea and stick with the Facebook aspect of it and scale it back and cover just 5 groups that I think are really good. So I'm sure that I'm going to be leaving out some groups that you probably enjoy, that you think maybe I should cover. So feel free to send them my way. You can send me an email. There's all sorts of contact methods. You'll hear that at the end of the episode. But these are 5 Greek groups. They are not in order of like best to worst or anything. So although I'll say like number 1 is this and number 2 is that or whatever, it doesn't mean number 1 is better than number 3 or number 5 or whatever. They are all good and they're all worth your time. They're all great. So you should definitely keep that in mind and check them all out. So the first group I'm talking about today is the War Games directory. There'll be a link in the show notes. Don't worry. And, actually, let me back up a sec, because I know not all of you use social media and not all of you use Facebook, right? You might use other social media things. You should really consider checking these groups out. Even if you don't use Facebook, you can go on the web, favorite web browser, and just click the links that we have in the show notes, and they'll take you there so you can see what it's like. And if you do use Facebook and you're not sure about groups or whatever, still look into it, because I think that depending on your needs, you might find that it's worth it for you. Different groups have different expertises, I guess you could say, different strengths. And Their strength might be something that you're interested in or that you need the help with right now or at a later point. So you just keep these in mind because they are invaluable resources. So, like I said, the very first group that I'm going to mention is the War Games Directory. War Games Directory has tons and tons of photos. In particular, they are photos of painted models, photos of games that the members play. It is a group that has a variety of time periods covered, and I should say it is a war gaming group. It's not a historical wargaming group, so it's not just focused on historicals, but it's wargaming. It's not for talking about dice games. It's not for talking about like X-Wing or any of those pre-painted stuff, Attack Wing or any of that kind of thing. It's not for board games, even if the board game is like a board war game, like Mar 44, so to speak, and or 1775. It's not for those. So if you are interested in that kind of stuff, there are other groups out there for you. This is for wargaming, for miniatures war games in particular, I would say. So you can talk about things like Warhammer, War Machine. You can talk about Flames of War. You can do Black Powder, Napoleon, any of the historicals, but it doesn't have to be historical. It can be pulp, it can be sci-fi, it can be fantasy, all that sort of stuff. It's not restricted to, a specific time period or genre other than wargaming. It's just something to keep in mind. So like I said, there's tons of photos, and I think that's its biggest strength because you will find so much stuff there that no matter what you're looking for, you will find some sort of inspiration, or maybe someone's done something that you're looking to do and you want to see how they had done it. Maybe they did it differently than you, or maybe you tried something and it didn't work. You ran a game at a con and you're like, oh no, that I didn't like how it went or whatever. You can go on this group and you can see how someone else had done the game. And so it's really handy. Additionally, it's a large group. There's over 1,000 members here. It is global. Most of the members, I believe, are from Europe and North America in particular, but really all across the globe, everywhere. So you're going to get many different perspectives, many different viewpoints on things, which is really cool. Here in, Wargaming Recon Central, here in New England, it tends to be just like the American-centric view of things, of wargaming and stuff. So when I go to local cons or whatever, that's what I'm getting. I don't get so much the British view, the Australian view. I don't get the Asian view or whatever. I don't get really any of that from other places. But with the Facebook groups, you can. And I should mention that there's something all Facebook groups now have. So it applies to the War Games directory, but it's not just the War Games directory. It applies to other groups as well. And that is a search feature. So if any of you have ever belonged to like an internet message board or internet forum, you know that a lot of them will have like a search bar feature. It's kind of like going on Google. You get a little search bar and you type in whatever that you want to look for. The same thing here. So let's say you are wanting to get stuff, some sort of stuff, right? Photos or whatever about Waterloo because it's a big anniversary coming up. You go to, in this case, the War Games directory. In the top right of the page of the Facebook group, I should say, there's a little search bar, and you type in what you want. You type in Waterloo, and you'll get all the content that has Waterloo in it, the word Waterloo. Or maybe you are looking for something that you posted or another person posted. You type their name in, and you get all the stuff that they did. So it makes it so much easier to find what you want. In the past, you had to be like, where did I see this? I don't know. Was it here? Was it there? And you'd scroll and scroll and scroll, and you wouldn't find stuff. Now you do. So that makes it much, much easier. And of course, I'm talking about it in relation to the War Games directory. It's not only for the War Games directory. All Facebook groups have it, all the ones I mentioned, and other Facebook groups that you may belong to or you may have seen. So number one, War Games directory, link in the show notes, don't worry. Number two is War Games at Battle Shades, link in the show notes. It is a historical wargaming group for just about any historical time period. What's really cool about Battle Shades, as it's abbreviated to, is that it has tons of inspiration because it's focused really on painted minis, painted terrain projects, things like that, so that you can get to the hobby side of the hobby where you can say, oh, I want to paint this particular Napoleonic unit. I'm talking Napoleonic stuff a lot right now because I have it on my mind for a variety of reasons. But I want to paint this particular camo scheme for a tank. And what do I do? you go on here, someone else has probably done it, right? And if they haven't, they probably have an idea for what you could do. You can find this stuff and it's great. It's easy to do. And the community is so friendly. They are all willing to help you. They're willing to help one another. It's a great place to just kind of belong. And community is a big thing for me. Wargaming is more than just an activity. It's more than just a hobby. It's a community. We are wargamers. We're here to wargame with one another, to be part of this community with one another. And I think that's really important. If you don't have the community, there's nothing there to hold it together. There's no cohesiveness. It's just people sometimes gathering maybe to play some games or to do solo gaming, wargaming, and so forth. But Battle Shades has a beautiful community here. So you do get a lot of inspiration. But like I said, if you have questions about stuff, there are tons of people who are there who are willing and eager to help you by answering your questions. A lot of gaming clubs and wargamers use it to try to find other opponents. So let's say you're, somewhere and I don't know who nearby plays game XYZ. You can go on here and say, I'm looking for an opponent to play Flames of War, to play Black Powder, to play, any of the historical kind of stuff, to play Trafalgar. Anyone here play that? I'd love to, I'm willing to drive X distance away and so forth. And you can help find people that way. So that's really cool. It has over 360 members. It's a public group. All of the Facebook groups I'm mentioning today are public groups, which means you can just you join. So it has a strong member base. And it's also been a very strong supporter of Wargaming Recon, in part because of its founder, Dave, who came up with the idea for today's topic. So thank you again, Dave. And it's a great, great community. I can't say enough great things about Battle Shades. They're just wonderful all around. So I really can't recommend them highly enough, is what I'm trying to say. They are just fantastic. So they are absolutely worth your time to go and check out. Battle Shades, as it's abbreviated, or Wargames at Battle Shades is their full Facebook group name. Now, moving on to the third group on today's list, I am talking about the Wargames calendar events and shows. Again, a link in the show notes, don't worry. So this is really cool. It's a little different. Whereas the first two groups that I've talked about, they're helpful because you can find a lot of imagery that you can come across. Photos, pictures, maps, things like that. You see pictures of people's models that they painted, and you can share your stuff like that. Wargames calendar events and shows isn't really for that, at least not directly. It is a place, or rather, in my opinion, the place to find out when Wargaming conventions and trade shows take place. It is predominantly UK focus, and just about any trade show or gaming convention in the United Kingdom appears here. And it's not as comprehensive for the rest of the world, but if you live in Australia, you live in Zimbabwe or wherever, and you know about show XYZ happening, you can go ahead and you get it put up there on their calendar. And that way everyone can say, oh, this is happening. Or here I could be like, huzzah is happening. Well, in this case, it happened on, it happened in May up in Maine. And so can we put this up on here? Because maybe people want to go, or OGC or Gen Con or, TotalCon or whatever. So they're really good about all of that. And it, like I said, it's a great way just to see not only what you might want to attend and what trade shows you might want to go to, but also to just see what else is out there, because maybe you're not able to get yourself to go to some of these places. You have to work, or you can't get away from the family or whatever, but maybe you just like to see what's there. So you can go on this Facebook group, you can see all these other places, you can go to their websites and be like, oh, look at this and that and whatever. And then additionally, some of the members will do posts where they kind of recap the events and what happened. So that way you can kind of, in a sense, feel like you were at these gaming conventions or trade shows without ever leaving the comfort of your home. Go on the computer, you see the photos, the write-ups, and all that kind of stuff. So they have it in the Facebook group. So I think that's great. Like, what if you're sick? And I was sick. I wasn't able to get to Havoc this year. And if someone who had been at Havoc was a member of this group, they could post on there and they could put pictures and stuff. So I could feel like I had gone to Havoc, even though I wasn't able to because I was sick. In addition to this being really the place for me where you can find out about all these shows and everything, it works because of the size of its member pool. There's over 1,800 members. That's right, over 1,800 members of this Facebook group. And that is just phenomenal. One of the largest member pools for a group that I'm going to talk about today. In fact, that might be, I think that's the largest member pool. 1,800, a lot of people, really. If you think about it, think how many people live in some of the smaller communities across the globe. 1,800 is a lot. It's larger than some of those smaller communities. So that's huge, right? That's something. And you can just find out so much stuff. So that's the third group that I want to talk about. And just to recap before I move on, the first group I mentioned was the War Games Directory. It's a great place for photos of painted minis and games. It's for wargaming, not just historical wargaming, but all wargaming, as long as it's not dice, it's not board games, it's not card games, it's not like pre-painted stuff like X-Wing or Star Trek Attack Wing, things like that. None of that. But otherwise, it's for like miniatures wargaming, War Machine, Hordes, fantasy, any historical thing, really. Number two is the War Games at Battle Shades group, which is one of my favorites. I get myself subscribed to all the notifications for this one, and every day I check it on my phone and to see what's going on, because there's just tons of historical wargaming that happens here. And the founder, Dave, posts tons of photos of things that he's painted. He is quite a skilled painter and a lot of eye candy there, so I love seeing what he's done. And then number three is the War Games calendar, events, and shows group, where you can basically find out about any and every wargaming trade show, gaming convention there is on the planet. If you want to know what's happening, go here. I know some magazines cover some of that stuff, they'll have listings in the back. Like, go here instead of the magazines, because this has it. And if it doesn't, you can get it easily added, and it goes live right away. It's fantastic. And then on top of that, some members do post kind of like recaps of the gaming conventions they've gone to or the trade shows. So you can feel like you made it to them without actually ever leaving your home, which I think is really cool. Now we move on to the fourth group that I'm going to mention. It is the Barbarians, all caps group. So Barbarians, don't worry, link in the show notes. It is created by listener Mike Payne, who also happens to GM many hang high pulp games at various New England gaming conventions and game days. You go to any of them in New England, you're going to see him. Just about the nicest, friendliest guy you will ever see. Runs really incredible, kid-friendly events. In fact, in the descriptions for every single event that he GMs, it'll say it's for kids and for adults who play well with kids. Very, very important. I think he's doing something just incredible. But this is the group he's created. It's a more laid-back group than some of the other ones that I will mention. It focuses on wargaming, but it also is opened up a little more diverse to just gaming in general and model making too. So let's say you are not a wargamer per se, but you like to do dioramas, or you like to make models. You made a model of the Bismarck or the Hindenburg, or I don't know, the Lusitania or Titanic, whatever. You could do that, and then you post the photos. You talk about what you did step by step on tips and all that sort of stuff. You just like to play games, and games that aren't really supported in the War Games Directory group, you talk about here in Barbarians. So if you want to play Memoir 44 or 1775 and then talk about it, post it in Barbarians. It's a community for you. Like I said, it's very laid back, very casual in that sense, and very open and friendly, and kind of like these are the people who you'd go hang out at the pub with, or you'd go to the coffee shop and just relax and hang out and see what happens, and talk about the TV you're watching and the shows you like and books you read and that kind of stuff, and wargaming. And just, it's very, very friendly, nice, relaxed, comfortable atmosphere. So if that's your thing, this is great. But some people like something a little more structured, and there are other groups for that. But this group is just, it's wonderful. The members share tons and tons of work in progress kind of things where I'm painting this army or this regiment of stuff. And this is where I am right now. I need to make a bunch of forests. And so I've done this so far. What do you think? Could I improve my technique? And there's videos of stuff. It has photos of events and upcoming cons and all that sort of thing. It has a very strong contingent of members who are based either in or near New England. So it is New England focused, I would say. However, the content and the appeal of it is global, so that you could be in India and be like, I want to belong to barbarians because the stuff is cool and applicable to what you are doing. So although it is very New England centric, it's not just for New Englanders. I don't want people to feel that way. It is a smaller group, but still large by any means. It's 200, over 240 members. So that allows you to get a nice broad scope of things, but still feel like you get to know people. And they're not just a random name that appears on the screen, that someone you have a connection to, which is really cool. So I like that that exists. And like I said, they have also been actually a pretty big supporter here of Wargaming Recon. So I have to express my thanks for that. And I want to just say that both Battle Shades and Barbarians, although both of them are great supporters of the show, I'm not recommending them because of that. I am a member of every single group that I am covering today. Every single one, I'm a member. I enjoyed seeing what goes up. I comment and do different things, but they're not being recommended on this episode either because they support the show or because I'm a member. They are here because they deserve to be so. I just want people to know that I'm not like, oh, well, they support the show, so I should give them a kickback in a sense to be like, hey, I'm going to put you. That's not how it is. Whether they supported the show or not, if they were not as great as the bar is being set, they wouldn't be on this episode. But these are all fantastic groups on Facebook that I think every wargamer really should consider belonging to. So before I get to the fifth group, because that is the final group, let me just recap one last time what groups I covered. So the first group I covered is the Wargames Directory group. It's global in nature, over 1,000 members, all types of wargaming, as long as it's not dice, card games, board games, or pre-painted stuff like X-Wing or Attack Wing, Star Trek Attack Wing. None of that, but otherwise you can do it. It's not just historical wargaming. It's all wargaming. Pulp, sci-fi, fantasy, all of that's covered. Tons of photos. Just a fantastic group. Wargames at Battle Shades, however, is a historical wargaming group. So it's really focused on photos of painted minis and that sort of stuff for historical wargaming. Tons of inspiration, and it's a great group. Then the Wargames calendar, events, and shows is the place to go to find out about a trade show near you, a gaming convention that's happening. If it's not on the list, let them know. They get it up right away. And like I said, it's also a great place to go because some members share recaps of the trade shows and cons that they've gone to. So you can feel like you've been to these without having been there. I could, in theory, go on here, and if someone had gone to Salute, for example, which I'm never going to be able to get to because Salute in London, and I'm here, in Massachusetts, it's pretty hard for me to get over to England, and I've never been, in fact, and maybe someday. But anyway, someone could have gone to Salute and then posted a recap on here on the Wargames calendar, events and shows, and then had photos or just written up and stuff. And so I could feel as if I had been there, even though I had not. And then Barbarians is the fourth group. It's very laid back, tons of just great stuff, very open too. It's wargaming focused, but if you're into not wargaming, but other types of gaming on here, board games, card games, whatever, model making, that's cool too. It's a great casual group. Wonderful group of people, just kind of hang out and chat, really. And then moving on to the fifth and final group here on today's episode. It is the Historical Wargames Exchange. That's right, the Historical Wargames Exchange. So this is the group you need to belong to if you have some sort of historical wargaming thing that you want to either buy, you want to sell, or you want to trade. That's right. Anything that pertains to historical wargaming, that fits into those categories, this is the place to go. There are many people who use this group who can find the hard to find or who just want to window shop. Sometimes it's just cool to see what's out there and what people get, and maybe you want to enter into an agreement with them, the seller, to either buy it or maybe you want to sell something or trade or whatever. And sometimes it's just kind of cool to see what's there. All sorts of really neat stuff. In general, you can usually find a pretty good deal here. You got to keep your eye open. It's something you want to make sure you check all the time. By all the time, I don't mean like every hour or whatever, but check like once a day. Just kind of scroll through the recent stuff. And of course, you can use that search bar feature if there's something you really want to either buy or to sell or trade or whatever. But it might take a little while for you to find what you want at the price you want to pay or trade and so forth. This is truly a global group, people from all over the world. So you have to keep that in mind when you're entering into the transaction. Shipping could be a huge bear, so to speak, just a gigantic expense. And then also shipping to or getting stuff shipped from certain countries takes longer, it's harder, things might be more prone to be lost, as I've been told. So really, don't forget, caveat emptor, buyer beware. It's something to remember at any time in life, but in particular with here, and I'm not trying to say this is like a shady group or anything, because it's not. It's very well established, and there are certain, gentleman rules that are in play here. But it's just whenever you enter into any sort of business transaction, whether you're buying gas, you go into the corner store or whatever, buyer beware. Just be careful, be mindful. There's over 1,600 members in this community. It's very active. Or vibrant, I think is the word a lot of places like to use. It is a vibrant community, and there's a lot of people here. So you are likely, very, very likely, I would say, to find what you're looking to buy a trade for, or to find someone who will buy what you want to sell. So that's something to keep in mind. The link to the Historical War Games Exchange will be in the show notes. Don't you worry. So those are the 5 great Facebook groups for wargamers, or 5 great wargaming Facebook groups, depending on how you want to, put the words in order there. And so I think that you will find all or any of them to be suitable for your needs. Whatever it is that you're looking for, you can find a group to belong to, whether it's War Games Directory, War Games at Battle Shades, War Games Calendar Events and Shows, Barbarians, or finally the Historical War Games Exchange. So many groups for many different types of wargamers and people. And then, like I said, this is just a list of 5 groups that I think are amazing for everyone. But I probably left out a group that that you would think would be awesome for people and that you think should be on the show. So if I did, get in touch. You can leave a comment on Facebook. We're over there at wargamingrecon.com/Facebook. You can find us right on there. It's easy to find our page. You can send me an email, jonathan@wargamingrecon.com. All the usual ways. And this is going to get repeated at the end of the episode, so you know where that is. But you'll just tell me. And then who knows, it might appear on a future episode of Wargaming Recon. And actually, speaking of comments from you, the listener, and speaking of Facebook, I have mailbag now because I cover the content for the episode, and we are moving on to the mailbag section. And this mailbag segment is composed of Facebook stuff. Surprise, surprise, right? So the first bit of commentary, I guess, that I want to share comes from TotalCon industry guest and Gamers on Games creator Dave Nighthawk Simpson, who said, quote, "Love your stuff. There were a number of guys wearing your shirt at TotalCon." So Nighthawk, thank you very much for your kind comments. I am so excited that you are a fan of the show because I love what you've been doing. And it's amazing to me, really, how many people in general enjoy Wargaming Recon, just all over the place, that tons of you love this. And I'm humbled by it, really, because often I just feel like I'm just a guy talking into a microphone, and here you are listening to it, watching, and all that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, there are all these like industry guest type people, game designers and magazine editors and authors and stuff who are really into it and like people who I admire, and I see all this stuff. And then to hear someone like you Nighthawk say that you love the stuff and you see the shirts around and everything. That's awesome for me. It really is. I guess it pays for me to pay on for those t-shirts. It's a great idea. So if any of you have like a wargaming club or you're have a convention that you're an organizer for, or just like anything, t-shirts really are the way to go to promote them. They might seem expensive at first, and definitely the ones that I've gotten for people are, I get, for those of you who are watching live, you can see that's that's my the black Wargaming Recon t-shirt. It's appeared on the website and stuff, but the only people who get the black ones are guests who've said that they wanted a t-shirt, and I send them as a way to say thank you for coming on the show. And me, everyone else, if I give away Wargaming Recon t-shirts, they're the white ones, which are really cool. Same logo and everything, but it's white instead of black is really what it is. But it's cool for me too to see people wearing them, and I'm like, whoa, someone's wearing my shirt. What? That's pretty awesome. A little surreal, actually. Also on Facebook, we had listener Dave say, quote, "What's not to like? A 30-plus-year-old with a 10-year-old's enthusiasm? JR is one of the boys." So thank you, Dave. I'm sure that my wife would appreciate if I had maybe a little bit more of a 30-plus-year-old's sense of enthusiasm for things. I really am in many ways just a big kid. And the other day I was in the bookstore looking for some books for my little one, and there was this book out, I think for Father's Day, and I can't remember the exact title, but basically it was something like, "What do you do with your dad who refuses to grow up?" or something like that. And it's a kid's picture book, and it shows like ways that you can tell dad is not doesn't want to grow up. He like plays with toys and he dresses up and does all sorts of crazy things and stuff, and like video games and everything. And I flipped through and I'm like, oh, I do this and this, and it was really, really funny for me. So thank you, Dave, for your comment. And then finally, listener Adrian said of episode 136, which is that HuzzahCon 2015 episode, he said, quote, "Just finished listening to the episode. It's incredible. One might go so far as to say life-changing." So thank you, Adrian, for your comment and kind words. And it might, in fact, be life-changing, depending on what part of your life you want to change. Yeah, I don't have anything funny for that. So that's what I got. And then moving on to announcements here. It's not really announcements. I just kind of wanted to share some of the stuff that I was able to pick up at Huzzah. Talk about it here on the podcast. And if you're watching live, you'll be able to see some of the things that I got. So I got a great deal for a few things from Adler Hobby, or actually Adler Board Game Cafes now, as it's known. And I picked up an IMAX kit of Vikings. So if you're in the live chat, you can see I'm holding up a picture now. But these guys, they are 1/72nd scale, soft plastic, and wow, that's an awful picture on the webcam. Sorry about that. I guess you can't see so well. But I thought these might be cool. I like Vikings. I mean, who doesn't, right? But they are in a variety of poses, very minimal assembly, and they remind me a lot of the hat industry kind of stuff. And I mean, who knows? Maybe Saga is someday in my future, right? And then also at Huzzah, on the final day, they do, and they've done this, I think, every year, really. Dean, I know you listen to the show, so when you listen to this, if I'm wrong, tell me and correct me because I'll fix it. Dean, of course, has been on the show as a guest, and he's an organizer of Huzzah. But they do like I don't want to call it a flea market, but you bring your used stuff and you set up on a table, doesn't cost anything, and you sell. And so there was someone who was selling hat stuff, hat industry, 1/72nd scale, ancient Romans. So they were selling boxes of Republican Romans, Hastide, and Velites, and Principe, and Triarii. You all know how much I love hat industry stuff. I've talked about it a lot on the show. If you're in the live, God, that's awful. Maybe that's my lighting. If you're watching live, I'm trying to show you the models, and it's just, that sucks. I'm sorry. I'll have some photos I'll try to get up on our Facebook page or something. But these are great stuff. I have some of these because I picked up some way back from the Hobby Bunker, and then they just ran out, and then I was able to get the Imperial Romans, some from them, Actually, all of them, really, I think. But some were hat industry and some were Caesar miniatures, all 1/72nd scale soft plastics. So I can do Hail Caesar. So I got a really good deal because the boxes were, some of them were like 2 boxes worth of stuff in one, and those were $10. And I'm just double checking to make sure because this is really exciting. Yeah, $10 for 2 boxes worth of stuff, and single boxes were 5. So each box is supposed to be roughly 48 figures. So you figure, let's round up to 50 because math not my strong suit. Each double box was 50 figures worth of stuff, and then single box, was 100 figures. I really can't do math. A double box was 50 figures per box, so that's 100 figures in a double box, and then the single box was 50 figures roughly, and I got a great deal. And actually, yeah, so I ended up with, what was that, 250 guys, and that's pretty awesome. Even you figure, what, 5-6 guys a base, that's a lot of stuff. I can get really cool things out on there. And then in addition to that, I did some shopping, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the vendor. Adrian and I had the trouble when we did the HuzzahCon episode live from Huzzah. But I was able to pick up some magazines, and I actually wanted to get these from the Hobby Bunker, but I did my shopping on the last day, and they closed up early. So I picked up Miniature War Games, which I love, right? Miniature War Games is one of my favorite magazines. This is April 2015. And if you're watching live or watch afterwards on YouTube, I'll have a link and stuff up to that. But it's a Salute Show Guide, and that episode 384, issue 384 rather. And then I got issue 383, which was the March issue, Miniature War Games with Battle Games. Henry Hyde, friend of the show, is the editor. Henry's a fantastic guy. Love Henry. He's awesome. So I picked those up. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of Miniature War Games. I love battle games. For me, the problem is it's just so darn expensive to get a print subscription because of the cost of shipping is what it is. I think because they're UK based and everything. And then I don't agree with how Exact Editions does the digital. And I understand you enter into a subscription or a license with them for the digital, and you get all the issues that came out during that time, and you get to download the PDFs of it, and then all the other stuff I think you just get to view as long as your license is live and you pay, per year or whatever. I just want to subscribe and automatically get the PDF downloads. I wanted it to work how War Game Soldiers and Strategy does it, which is another favorite. And they've been on the show many times. Jasper Ortiz was on, and Joshua Browers, because they were talking about the Ancient History magazine Kickstarter the other day. But anyway, this issue I also picked up, The Defense of France. It's issue 77. What's the date on it? I don't see. I'm not going to take up all of your time with that. It's not important. But they get stuff on 10mm for 7 Years' War and paratroopers and World War II. So I was really happy to pick these up. I just love getting magazines, and I love these in particular. They are 2 of my favorites. I love War Games Illustrated, don't get me wrong. They're a great one. It's just, I think they're expensive for a digital sub. I think they're insanely expensive, really, for that. And I prefer the print, but it's hard to get the print, too. So when I only have so much, and you figure it's $9 US per issue of the 2 titles I just showed you, and roughly the same for War Games Illustrated, my money goes fast. $9, 18, and another 9. 27 is that for the 3 issues. That's a lot of money. Think of all the models you could buy, all the podcast equipment I could get and stuff. But then the big thing that I got, and I've mentioned it a couple times on our Facebook page, is the Campaigns of Napoleon by David Chandler, which I got from Brigadier's Bookshelf, which is owned by Dean Emerson. And I'm not into Napoleonics, right? But I'm interested. Sorry to everyone watching live for the glare, but you see, this is a book. This is a first edition. It's in great condition. I mean, a little bit on the spine, some stuff, but it's gorgeous. We got a copy of this at my work. I work at a library. This guy died. His wife donated all of his military history stuff. We're talking almost 1,000 books. We took a bunch. With the gem for us was this. This sells for hundreds and hundreds of dollars on Amazon print form. The Kindle, the ebook version is like $80 American, something like that. I got this for a song. I'm not going to tell you how much, but I got it for a song, and I am so excited because I don't foresee myself getting into Napoleonic wargaming per se, or I might play, if someone else is doing a thing. If I don't have to my two rules, as I've talked about, it's been a long time. I will play anything with almost anyone as long as you're not a rules lawyer, power gamer, or attorney mindset person playing like an attorney. If you are not into those three groups, I will play anything, right? As long as I, one, don't have to buy anything, two, don't have to assemble anything, and three, don't have to paint anything. And I'll play just about anything. So I'll play Napoleonics or whatever. But so this has me really excited just because I want to learn more about the Napoleonic Wars. I want to learn more about all this because I learned some in history class at school and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it doesn't get into it like this. And you know, if you're watching the YouTube video, you're watching live, see, I'm just showing you some illustrations and stuff. And it's a great book. Everyone tells me this is the book on the campaigns of Napoleon, that like you need to get this. And that's the tome that people refer to. Right now, I'm reading Waterloo by Cornwell. And so that's kind of a good introduction for me because I like how his style is and stuff. And I want to do that before I get into something more serious like the campaigns of Napoleon by Chandler. So those are some of the cool stuff that I picked up at Huzzah. And I think that's, did I buy it anywhere? Anyway, I got a variety of different things, but those are the highlights that I want to share with all of you. And then let's see what else. So don't forget, new next episode comes out on Monday, June 22nd, 2015. I know it sounds like it's a long way away, but when you realize I'm recording this on May 31st, 2015. So by the time you get it, it's going to be into June anyway, second week of June, I think. June 8th, I think is when this one does come out. But anyway, June 22nd, that's when the next episode comes. So I'm going to be sharing, I think, some good books to read, just in general, ones that I've covered. They may not necessarily be wargaming rules, but just kind of different stuff for wargaming and historical gaming, military history, all that kind of stuff. And then I want to remind all of you about the live page. I know some of you are using the live page right now, which is really cool. But the live page has some really cool stuff in it that I want to just recommend to you because, yes, you can watch me record this live, which might be interesting, or maybe it's not as interesting to just see me talking to a microphone. That I don't know. And of course, you can see it after the fact on YouTube. But the big thing for that is that you can interact with me because there's a chat room there. Anyone who's on the live page can get into the chat room, can leave comments, questions, whatever. I see them. I can respond to them. Guests can also see them and then respond to them, or I can get the stuff from there and say, hey, guest so-and-so, listener XYZ in the chat room said this. What do you think about that? So it's just a really cool way to foster a sense of community, which I think is important. This whole episode's really been about community. I've only said the word a handful of times, but it's community. Community. These Facebook groups and everything I've talked about, community, right? Helping one another and belonging. And then also the live page should be benefiting now because I got a new webcam. It's a Logitech C920, probably means nothing to most of you. But the cool thing with it is that it's a high def webcam, better than the one that was in my computer. It's also removable, so I can take it. I can put it on my MacBook Pro, so maybe I can do some in the field recording or when I'm at a con or whatever. It's not the same as a digital camcorder, but it just gives a better, clearer, more crisp image of things. So maybe you don't want to see every pore on my head, so to speak. And in the warmer weather, it gets really hot in the recording studio. Like I sweat bullets. So if you watch live, you'll see that, which might be a reason to not watch live. I don't know, especially with the new webcam. But that's just some of the cool stuff going on there. So wargamingrecon.com/live, link in the show notes. Don't worry. So I really want to recommend the live page because I think it's going to be awesome. The more people start using it, the better it'll be because it's hard for all of you because I know we all have so much going on in our lives and we're spread out across the globe. There are listeners in Australia and Asia and throughout Europe and all over North America and stuff. So it's hard to find that one time that works for everyone. But even when the show's not live, go into the live page and go in the chat room and chat with one another. When you when you make a comment on there, it stays there so people can scroll back and they can see. So that's just really cool. And then this is actually a pretty big announcement because it's one that I had referenced earlier on, but I was kind of like, oh, I'm not sure about, and I hemmed and hawed. But one of the things that I'm going to do to thank those who are Patreon patrons and also to encourage more of you to maybe become a Patreon patron is I'm going to release podcast episodes first to Patreon patrons, and that'll be through the Patreon website. We have that up there. You can become a Patreon patron and get the newest Wargaming Recon episodes before everyone else. Nobody else will get them, well, except for me, but nobody else will get them before Patreon patrons. So if you like what I'm doing here at Wargaming Recon, why not support me over at Patreon? It costs as little as $1 an episode. That's roughly $2 American per month. There'll be a link in the show notes. And think of it like a tip jar. You go to the coffee shop, right? And the barista gets you your beverage. You leave $1 or $2 in there, right? You tip when you get your haircut. You go to the barbershop and all that kind of stuff, or for service at a restaurant. If you find any sort of value in what I'm doing, if I enrich your life in some way, you find it funny, helpful, helps you pass the time while you paint or at the gym or you commuting, whatever. This is just a way, if you want to and if you can, say thank you. It doesn't cost, it costs less than a cup of coffee, really. Less per month than a cup of coffee a day is how you can think about it. And then I want to, since I got the better webcam, later this year will be the Extra Life 24-hour Gamerthon. And normally I wouldn't start talking about it now. I know I mentioned it a few episodes back. But the reason why I'm mentioning it again is because listener Dave did this last year. He did it all on his own. And this year, he did part of it and then has passed the torch on to me to do, which is cool. But he painted a model, which I will be auctioning on an eBay charity auction. All the proceeds from that, minus cost and stuff, will go to the Extra Life 24-hour Gamerthon to help benefit Boston Children's Hospital. This is a charity that pays for medical care for kids who have really scary, serious illnesses, and their families can't afford for them to get the help they need. If they don't get the help, bad things happen to these kids. So this charity pays for it all, right? The kid has cancer, they have leukemia, all sorts of stuff. I have a little cousin who has CF, and she goes to Children's, right? Her family can afford to pay for her treatments and stuff and pay for her coverage. Not every kid can. Kids shouldn't have to worry that they won't get the help they need because they have a disease or an illness. So Extra Life, it takes care of it, right? So Dave kindly, I'm tearing up here, but Dave kindly painted this awesome limited edition Battle Games miniature. It's a World War I Tommy. And if you are, I've had the photo online before, and he has better photos on Battle Shades. And wow, the lighting in here sucks. I'm sorry, people. But there we go. I gotta get really close, but he painted this guy, and I mean, geez, he is one heck of a talented painter. Look at that, and the basing and everything. So later on this year, that'll probably be, I think, October 2015 is when the Extra Life 24-hour Gameathon happens, and we'll have the charity auction and stuff then. So you can bid on it. It'll be yours. I'll ship it to you and everything, and you can get this really cool piece here. And I wish that I could just be like, Dave, here, take the money. I'll keep this because it is awesome. I really, really, really like it. I have one of these myself that's not painted that I bought from Henry Hyde. He was using it as a fundraiser for the combat stress appeal that he's been doing for many a year, unpainted and everything. And so I have the just regular guy, and I would love for it to look like this because this is awesome. So anyway, I want to remind all of you that you can subscribe to the show also on iTunes. iTunes is a great way to get new episodes of this because I know you can use an app on your phone, whether you get an Android phone or iPhone or whatever, and the stuff will come in. But if you subscribe on iTunes, it automatically just appears, right? It appears on your computer and everything. And if you listen to us through iTunes, or anyway, really, you can leave us a review on iTunes. And we have a review here that I would like to share with you. So I got a recent review from Shubes Live at BV, who left a 5-star review titled, "Great for the hobbyist commuting." The review says, quote, "This show has been a staple for my drives of late. Can't get enough of it," unquote. So thank you very much for your very kind review, Shubes Live at BV. This is what it's all about. Podcasting is fantastic because you can listen to these when you're doing your commuting to and from work or doing errands. You're at the gym, you're at work, which is how I listen to a lot of stuff. So I just think it's fantastic. And I'm happy that made your commute better. or maybe better is not the right word, but I'm happy that allowed your commute to go by while you can listen to episodes of Wargaming Recon. And then, of course, don't forget the episode guide. Head over to the episode guide where you find what upcoming shows will be. If I have a theme, I'll put it in there, a guest or whatever. You can see all of that kind of stuff. So, for example, if you head over to the episode guide, you will see, as of the time that I am recording this, that I don't have much of anything showing coming up. Although November 9th, for example, will be the holiday gift guide for 2015. December 7th will be our looking back on the year sort of thing. And that we have 2 best of episodes that'll be coming out. But what's also cool is the episode guide tells you when the next season begins. So 2016 season begins on January 18th. That's like a lifetime away. That's episode 152. 152 episodes. That's something else. So anyway, there's that. And then, of course, you know how you can always get in touch with me. Any comments, questions you have, criticism that's constructive is always enjoy. Send that over on our Facebook page. You can email me, jonathan@wargamingrecon.com. There's Twitter. But no matter what, just remember the show notes, because that's where all of this stuff is. So you're driving in that car, right? You're not going to remember half of what I talked about. You're not going to remember 90% of it. And I don't blame you. You got to concentrate on not crashing the car and not dying. That is the most important thing, okay? When you're driving, don't crash, don't die, don't hurt other people. So just remember one thing when you're listening to this show when you're driving: the link to the show notes, wargamingrecon.com/WR137. That's wargamingrecon.com/WR137. It'll have links to all the Facebook groups that I've mentioned. It'll have photos and all sorts of stuff. So that is the best way to get to all of this stuff. Well, that was episode 137. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to this episode of Wargaming Recon. I know you all have very busy schedules, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your lives to make us a part of it. And to all of you who watch us on the live streaming page, thank you for watching live. I hope you enjoyed it. And there'll be more live episodes coming up, and all of our live content then appears on our YouTube page, so you can find it there. So no matter how busy you are in life, no matter how many fantastic Wargaming Facebook groups you belong to and you're checking every day, no matter how many pages you have to read in the campaigns of Napoleon, you know that no matter what else, you gotta keep on gaming.